I was actually having a conversation with a WWE superstar who will remain nameless, and we were just kind of shooting the shit or whatever. And he was like, "Do you have like a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, WWE superstars?" And I went, "I don't know. I guess it changes all the time, though. It's like, what are the qualifications for it? It's so." I would want to put Shawn Michaels on there. I'd want to put Bret Hart on there, but would they both go on there? Do they both fill the same role? I'd want to put Austin on there, but now you've got Shawn, Bret, Austin. This is basically just the Attitude Era. Wouldn't you have to put Rock up there too? It's just so specific to your tastes. And he said to me, well, I think you got to put it in terms of top guys and kind of ranking it that way. And it was like, you're right. You're right. It becomes much less of a conversation. Mount Rushmore is not supposed to be about who your favorite is. It's supposed to be kind of a universal, right? And that's where the top guy conversation comes in. Because there haven't been that many top guys, and especially top guys with real consistency. The top guy is the individual who is getting people to buy tickets to that building in big, big numbers, who is getting people to buy pay-per-views in big, big numbers at the time. Obviously, that's not a factor anymore. But it's somebody that if they're not on the show, less people are going to the show. This is the guy. I think when you're looking at top guys, obviously the quintessential one is Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was a top guy in the WWE from 1984 until, some would argue 1993. But clearly by 92, the fatigue had set in. Hogan's run was incredible. Pre-WrestleMania, 83, 84. But WrestleMania was built around Hulkamania. WWE, Hulkamania, WrestleMania, it was all one thing. He went into WCW, and while at first, they were fledgling, by the time the NWO came in, Hogan was top guy again. Even when Nash and Hall were the outsiders, Hollywood Hogan was still the top guy in that company. Ric Flair is on that list of being a top guy outside of the WWE, and being the guy that Starrcade was built around in the 80s, and being the guy that Crockett was built around. The star of wrestling outside of WWE was Ric Flair. He was the name that was synonymous with that title, and there were others, Dusty Rhodes, Harley Race, a lot of people, and Dusty Rhodes can be in that top guy conversation. I just think the length of time and the breadth of opponents that Rick had as a top guy puts him in this conversation. But after Hogan and Rick, I would argue that you don't have anybody with the consistency of Hogan and Rick. Because after that, you have Bret, Shawn, Austin, Rock, a little bit of Undertaker. Nobody maintains that top guy spot for more than 2 to 3 years until WrestleMania 20. You could say 21, but it was really the year between 21 and 22. John Cena takes over, and he rides, baby. He rides the lightning. Now, John Cena came in, and he really proved what he could do at WrestleMania 20 in the match with Big Show. But that was the opener. That was the United States Championship match. It was clear that John Cena was connecting in a very special way with the audience. But still, it is interesting that you look at the rest of that show, and it's like, Hunter and Shawn and Angle and Guerrero and Rock and Sock and Evolution and all this stuff. And it's like, you don't know that bubbling right under the surface is Big Match John. And then John Cena goes to WrestleMania 21 and wins his first world title against JBL. Now, if you really watch that, I think that WWE had their heart set on Batista as the guy and John Cena as the backup. But I think it was obvious when you looked at the connection that was being made that John Cena was the guy. when you start to get into WrestleMania 22, 23, and the run that John Cena had after it of main events, that's where you get this consistency of top guy. That's where John Cena, in the afterglow of the Attitude Era, takes a company that, quite frankly, was trying to figure out exactly what they were. WWE was in a state of reinvention. They couldn't be the Attitude Era company anymore. But how do you go from Stone Cold Steve Austin to Barney the Purple Dinosaur? It's impossible. You can't just overnight. Especially John Cena, who, when the character caught fire, had an edge, had a real edge to it. But then, realized that he had to represent what this new company was becoming. And by the way, he did it. John Cena did it. And you look at those WrestleMania main events that came in pretty quick succession, one after the other, leading basically up to 27. 21 through 27 was pretty much John Cena territory. 21, you had JBL. 25 was the triple threat, Edge versus Big Show versus John Cena. What was it? 23 was John Cena versus Shawn Michaels. 24, John Cena versus Triple H versus Randy Orton. 22 was Triple H. I mean, there was a lot. There was a lot there. And, people look at John Cena's run and they can be critical of it because, yeah, he won a lot of matches. And yeah, the Nexus thing sucked. Yep, the Nexus thing sucked. But I think the good that John Cena did on this incredible run as a top guy truly outweighs the bad. I think the thing that John Cena doesn't get credit for is the amount of sacrifice that he made and the level of company guy that he was, that most top guys in his position simply are not. Most top guys are protective of their spot. Most top guys are, that's not going to work for me, brother. Most top guys stay on way too long. But the thing that baffles me about John Cena is that if you look, right, he does everything. He gets from WrestleMania 20 to WrestleMania 21. He's the world champion, but he's still not the world champion. WrestleMania 21 to WrestleMania 22, he finally proves he is the guy. 23, he delivers. 24, 25, 26. Now we get to WrestleMania 27. And not only is he stuck in a match against The Miz, who quite frankly at that time was not ready to be champion, but A, he loses the match, and B, The Rock, who's the guest host of WrestleMania, is the one that gets all the glory. Now, I know what you're saying. Yeah, big deal. The only reason that happened is because all's well that ends well. They were building to John Cena getting another WrestleMania main event the next year. And that's true. But what happened the next year? The Rock spent a lot of time on WWE TV assassinating John Cena's character. The Rock gave a credence to every criticism that every wrestling fan had of the John Cena character. The Rock made the WWE a very difficult place for John Cena to exist in after The Rock left. And then he beat John Cena. That's unheard of. Do you think any legend is coming in and beating Hulk Hogan? Do you think any legend is coming in and beating Stone Cold? Do you think any legend is coming in and beating Roman Reigns? I'm going to tell you something right now. If The Rock comes back for WrestleMania and he faces Roman Reigns in a match, Roman's going over. Because John Cena is the only top guy I can think of that is so business that even after The Rock assassinated him for a year, he was still okay to go out on his ass. Because you know what? The company has been there for me. I'm going to be there for the company. No one's there for the company. John is there for the company. It's an honorable thing, dude. A lot of people will probably tell him don't do that. It's an honorable thing. And guess what? It's not like The Rock had to win because he was clearly better than John Cena. What happened when The Rock and John Cena were in the ring together? I'll tell you what happened. John held his own. Number one, he didn't shake out of his character. Number two, he got the best of The Rock on at least one, if not more occasions. And that's difficult to do. He held his own against The Rock. He proved what he could do. And I know what you're saying. Big deal he lost to The Rock. He went to WrestleMania 28 a year after that, and he finally beat him. Okay. So, on his way to finally beating The Rock in the main event of WrestleMania 28, all he has to do is lose at WrestleMania 29. All he has to do is lose to The Rock at WrestleMania 28. Have The Rock just destroy him verbally for a year. And then also lose to The Miz at WrestleMania 27 and actually have that pay-per-view go off with him looking like he's a fool. And that's going to make him feel better. Well, I'm sure what makes him feel better is what happened after WrestleMania 28. What happened after WrestleMania 28? John Cena never main evented a WrestleMania again. Did you know that? After John Cena beat The Rock, he never main evented a WrestleMania again. He won matches, but he never main evented another WrestleMania. He went from being the guy that could deliver you a WrestleMania main event to never being invited back to that spot. That would have gotten under my tits, boy. That would have pissed me off if I was John Cena. After everything I gave you, after I've proved to you that you could put me in there with The Big Show or Shawn Michaels or The Rock, and I'm going to deliver a match. I'm never getting a WrestleMania main event again. Never again. 30, Bray Wyatt. 31, Rusev. 32, surprise appearance in The Rock's corner. I mean, it's insane. And 34, the match that everybody's waiting for. WrestleMania 34. Undertaker versus John Cena. John Cena lost in a minute and a half. And do you know why? Here's my theory on the John Cena losing to The Undertaker in a minute and a half. And I came to this theory watching The Last Ride, and nobody has ever said anything about it, and it has never been confirmed. But this is my own Sam Roberts wrestling conspiracy theory. If you watch The Last Ride, after his match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 33, The Undertaker's confidence was completely shaken. The Undertaker looked like he was a shell of himself in that docuseries. The Undertaker was planning on having his last match be against Roman Reigns. He left his boots in the ring, and it destroyed him. It destroyed him that he went out on such a bad match. I believe, here's the thing. When you want somebody to be playing at their best, sometimes they need a victory under their belt. Sometimes you need to remind an athlete not only that they can win, but how well they can win. And I truly believe that at some point they said, we need to boost The Undertaker's confidence. We need to give The Undertaker a performance at WrestleMania that will make The Undertaker go, oh man, I barely scratched the surface. Oh, I could have done more. I believe that they wanted more Undertaker matches. I believe that they knew The Undertaker had more in the tank. He just needed to get there psychologically. And so I believe that that whole story was done so that John Cena could be the ultimate sacrificial lamb to The Undertaker. And it's not a storyline. It's just so The Undertaker can get back there and perform and do more actual good matches. And I believe that John Cena sacrificed himself for that. And that is a tremendous sacrifice. Okay, John Cena gains nothing. John Cena gained absolutely nothing from losing like that. The Undertaker gained everything. And maybe that was going back to when John Cena was a rookie, and the Undertaker shaking his hand both on screen and off screen did a lot for him. And John Cena felt a sense of loyalty. Maybe John Cena realized that it would truly be best for the company if the Undertaker was in a better frame of mind and he felt like he could be of service. But even if I was totally wrong and that's not why it happened, for whatever reason, John Cena came back after everything he'd done and lost to the Undertaker in a minute. In a minute. When it was time to make Roman Reigns the guy, they were like, yeah, we had him beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania. But he really has to be the top guy, John. And people still look at you as the top guy. John said, cool. And he went out there and he lost to Roman Reigns. When it was time to figure out what to do with Bray Wyatt and there was a pandemic and Bray Wyatt had lost steam because he had lost the championship to Bill Goldberg for some reason, John Cena not only let Bray Wyatt beat him, but absolutely let him psychologically dismantle him on TV. A lot of these superstars care very deeply about the narratives that they've created and the characters that they've created. John Cena allowed a scenario where Bray Wyatt was able to make a mockery of the entire career that John Cena had crafted live at WrestleMania for everybody to see. A lot of top guys would never, ever allow that to happen. How about Brock Lesnar? How about when it was time when they were like, we need to make Brock Lesnar the guy? John, we need you to make Brock Lesnar the guy. What did John Cena go out there and do? Not the first Lesnar match, the second one, the SummerSlam match, where John Cena went out there and invented Suplex City. John Cena just ate suplex after suplex after suplex after suplex after everything that Super Cena had done for the WWE. It was time for Brock Lesnar to go out there and just kick the shit out of him. And that's what he did. A lot of top guys would have said, yeah, I'm not doing that. No. I'm not going out there and looking weak. I'm trying to start a Hollywood career. I want to be able to come back here. Would The Rock have done that? I don't know. How about John Cena comes back last year? Let's Roman beat him again. Again! He comes back and lets Roman beat him. That's not what happened between Cena and The Rock. Cena could have come back and said, okay, now I'm The Rock, so I'm going to do to them what The Rock did to me. And instead, Cena's like, no, I'm just going to go out there and lose to these people. When he's not main eventing, he's doing the United States Open Challenge. He's making guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who are on NXT, look credible. Can you imagine Roman Reigns making Carmelo Hayes look credible? Can you imagine Roman Reigns making Cameron Grimes look credible? It wouldn't happen. That's a John Cena specialty. Look at the rivalries that John Cena had. You can't even pick who his true arch nemesis is. Randy Orton, Edge, The Rock. I mean, when you really break it down, when it comes to top guys, both for consistency and selflessness, nobody's higher on the list than John Cena. And guess what? He never even got to be cool. Ric Flair was cool the whole time he was a top guy. Hogan got to go Hollywood and be cool. Do you know how badly on a creative level, regardless of what he says, do you know how badly on a creative level John Cena probably wanted to go heel? Do you know how badly on a creative level John Cena wanted to be NWO John Cena? And he never did it. Why? Because the company needed him to keep being that babyface. Hey, man, I need you to keep going out there and getting booed. You got it, boss. Whatever you need. You kill to have somebody like John Cena working for you. If there is anybody that the WWE should be loyal to forever, it's John Cena. I mean, when you look at top guys, if you're making a top guy Mount Rushmore, you're looking at Hogan for sure. You're looking at Flair for sure. You're looking at John Cena. And then maybe to round out the four, probably Bruno. You're probably looking at Bruno Sammartino, who just headlined Madison Square Garden after Madison Square Garden after Madison Square Garden. Anybody that's selling out arenas every month for years. That's a top guy with consistency. And there ain't no slowing down. There ain't no missing pay-per-views. There ain't no missing live events. John Cena was at all of them. Bruno was at all of them. Flair was at all of them. Hogan was at all of them. I mean, those are your four. Those are your four top guys. And amongst those four, when you look at everything Cena did, continues to do, and the fact that he really has this history of putting the business first, it's hard to make the claim, I know. Ric Flair's the wheelin' dealin'. I know. Hulk Hogan revolutionized everything for us. But when I just look at it all on paper in front of me, I have a really tough time saying John Cena is not, if there's one true GOAT, that one true GOAT.